What is up, guys? This is Linthio coming at you with an updated version of my Herald of Ultimateness deck. Now, this is a slightly more aggro deck. This is probably the most aggro deck version that I've built of this. And I actually really like it. Normally, you know, Herald is very stalling and controlling. This is obviously has an element of that with the Herald of Ultimateness, but it's a very quick version. And I actually really like how it's been testing, if I'm completely honest. Sorry for nudging the camera. So we'll go straight into it so you can see how it is. Seeing the Constellar Pleiades, you've probably got an idea of how the deck runs. So starting us off, we obviously have the 3 Herald of Ultimateness, the biggest boss ritual monster there is. That's probably open to debate, but in my eyes, it's the biggest and best. So yeah, we have the 3. I'm not running Herald of Perfection in this one because it's kind of a go ham or go home, if I'm completely honest, because that's just the way I kind of like to run Herald nowadays. If you can establish the lock, which I'll speak about in a little sec, it's just so good, and you only need 2 cards to pull it off, so pretty strong. But yeah, 3 of them, and I need to keep getting different languages of my Herald. 3 Megami, this is kind of standard. This is your advanced ritual art target. Don't really need to say much about this. Drawing it isn't that bad, but drawing 2 is just so painful because you might as well just give up the game in normal terms. But the nice thing about this version of the deck is just because you draw 2 of these doesn't necessarily mean you actually auto-lose, which is really nice, which you will see. So we have 3 Megami because it is your ARA target. I don't play any more because there's no point. We then have 3 Manju. This is your main searcher. Don't play Senju, don't play Sonic Bird, because Manju just does everything that they basically do, and it's far, far superior. If I start adding in Senjus and Sonic Birds, it actually adds more inconsistencies, especially in this version, so I just like having the 3 Manju, and I've kind of always stuck by that. The theory behind it all is just that you see this more often, and it's just going to be a lot nicer to see a Manju, a Senju. No, I was right. It was much nicer to see the Manju rather than the Senju or the Sonic Bird. Then one of the main combos of the deck, we have 3 Gale Dogra. This is one of your go ham or go home cards. The whole combo with this is you summon it hopefully first turn, and you send both Herald of Arclights to the graveyard, leaving you on 2,000 life, but then you can fully establish a Herald of Ultimateness on board. And the whole point is you have to basically stop your opponent summoning a monster that is 2 650 or more, because that is the attack of this. So it's actually very difficult for your opponent to do because you'll probably open up good with this. But the other lock, which I'll show you in a sec, involves this card as one piece and another one in a sec. So Gale Dogra is just here just simply to abuse that combo, and it's actually not as bad as you think. It does hurt when you get Veiled or you get breakthroughs, but unfortunately that's just life. And in all fairness, you're only losing 3,000 life, so you will be on 5,000 still, and there are cards you can play with still in the deck to protect yourself. So that is a pretty solid with Gale Dogra. Next up, the second part of the lock is Christia. So Christia at 3 is just so good. We run fairies, and just explaining the combo. Gale Dogra, you send 2 Arclights to the grave. Regardless, you must send 2 for this to work. And then once you activate Advanced Ritual Light, you send 2 Megamis. And now you have 4 fairies engraved. So get back a Megami into your hands, and you have a Herald Ultimateness, Gale Dogra, and Christia on board. And every time I've done that, my opponent's never really broken it, because it's just a very difficult thing to do. You have a monster that stops special summoning, and then you have a 3k defender that just can stop basically anything. So Christia is really good for doing that. That's a big part of the aggro version. But it's nothing new if you have followed my Herald deck profiles. This is nothing new. So 3 Christia is just so good, and the reason it's at 3, you want to see it as quickly as possible. You want to see Gale Dogra and Christia in your opening hand. Then here is one of the new engines. We have the Seraph engine. I couldn't speak then. So we have 3 of a Scepter and 3 of Sovereignty. 3 Scepter, 3 Sovereignty. These cards are just so amazing. Not only are they fairies for discarding with Herald, they provide so many powerful plays, because if you do have that Herald on board already, it means that you can safely go off with these Scepter and Sovereignty plays, and the best thing about it is the Sovereignties replace themselves. Now what I mean by that is, you summon the Scepter, you get the effect to add the Sovereignty. I imagine you've already got Sovereignty in hand, So therefore, you will activate Sovereignty's effect to draw, replacing itself. Sovereignty again, draw, replace itself. Then when Scepter goes off, and most likely going into Deltaros, you destroy something, draw a card. They've all replaced themselves. You haven't minused at all, which is very important for this deck. And that's why I really like them, because at worst case, they are just a one-for-one replacement, much like how I summon Manju. If I've already got Herald out on board, and I have a Manju, and I know there are other Heralds in deck, I'll just summon the Manju just to, one, deck thin, and two, just replace itself so I can have a bit more aggro on board. So these are brilliant. They are just so useful, and in regards to how they run in the meta, I believe these were too late to make such an impact that they did in Japan. But nevertheless, it's fine by me just because it means that it's very unlikely they're actually going to get a hit on the list, so I can keep this version of the deck. Then going on to the second engine, you could say, is the Artifact engine. Now, this is a bit of a different one. Some people might be saying, why are you running Artifacts with the Standard Herald and then the Star Seraphs? So, there's a very good reason for that, and it's simply because it allows me to put in certain cards with the Artifacts. Now, all the Artifacts, which I'll show you now, all provide different roles. So the Scythe is there to protect, when I have Herald out, for example, Scythe is there to protect my Herald from extra deck monsters. So if I think my opponent's going to go, or know my opponent's going to go for an extra deck play, I'll be able to summon out Scythe, resolve his effect. Even if they try and break through, anything like that, I can protect the Scythe's effect with my Herald, meaning that I've basically bought myself a turn to get rid of that. Get rid of those monsters they were originally going to go into the extra deck. Moral Attack is a no-brainer. This one is just so good, and as soon as he goes up more, then I'll play him more, because I feel that he will at some point. And Beagle Attack is here because sometimes you can draw these, and you don't really want them, so you can summon the Beagle Attack off the Sanctum, or in worst case, if you do draw the Beagle Attack, you can ignition it, then set one of these, and then Beagle Attack's effect to go off to bring out two monsters. So pretty solid. The artifacts are working really, really well, and I do like how it runs. We have all lights, basically, apart from the Gale Dogra, so Honest is just amazing, and it means, again, you can be really aggro with this. And there's another card in here that allows me to abuse it a little bit more, but Christie is one of the best ones. Some of my favourite plays are being able to use like a Manju, if I've got 3 engraved, Manju, Honest, main phase 2, then summon the Christie, get the Honest back. So some really nice plays with that, and just in general, Honest is a bit of a pain in the arse for people to deal with. So going on to the spells, we have the 2 Advanced Ritual Arts. Still don't know why this card isn't at 3, if I'm completely honest, and I will never understand it until they put it at 3, because there isn't exactly generic busted ritual support coming out. And if I'm completely honest, meta decks don't really have that many vanillas in main deck anyway, unless you are Ignites, because that's the whole point of the deck. So Advanced Ritual Art at 2 is just basically at 2 because I have to play it at 2. You play the maximum amount of Advanced Ritual Arts in this deck. Then for some consistencies, we have the Upstart Goblin. I don't mind giving my opponent life points if it means that I get to my Herald quicker, because it just means that I can control the duel. So Upstart Goblins are just here for consistency. Then we have 2 Ignition. Now, the reason why I like this card, there are 2 reasons. Or technically 3. So the first one is, at worst case scenario, it is my MST. This deck kind of needs MSTs because people on the Advanced Ritual Art play might flip up Vanities or, skill drains. Things like that are a problem for this deck. And having, like a main decked, what's the word I'm looking for? A main decked archetype card that provides me with back row destruction is just so good. So having the Ignitions is really strong. The second thing is it allows me to deck thin, because once you activate it, you can then set an artifact from your deck. And the third thing is it allows me to pop my dead artifacts that I might not want to keep in my hand. Maybe I set them earlier in the duel because I was happy with the amount of fairies in hands, but as time goes on, the duel goes on, it's been whittled down a little bit. So it just means that I can make some explosive plays, especially with the Beagle Tech, for example, because this and Beagle Tech just means I get, either a Scythe, a Beagle Tech, or a Monolith. Oh, I forgot his name. What is this? This is Moral Attack. It's so bad when you have these mental blocks. I do apologize. So that's the reason why I run 2 Ignition. 3 is a bit too much because if you don't have any artifacts in deck, you can't activate the Ignition because you can't properly resolve it. So then the final spell is a Raigeki. Don't really need so much about it. It's just so good. Then the traps. I have 5. We have 3 Sanctum. Now, you could technically say you could run 2 of this, but I really like 3 because it just gives me a lot of plays, especially when you're going up against someone in the first duel. It means that if you do summon Herald and then set this, they automatically think, or most likely will think, it is either a Vanities, or they will think it is something like a Royal Decree. So they will do their best to try and target the back row and destroy it. So if they MST it, chain MST on this, you just be like, okay, chain summon like a Monolith, or I keep saying Monolith, I've got Clee on the brain. Summon the Scythe or anything like that, and then I can get an extra destruction in because they've destroyed it. So Sanctum is really nice. In the worst case, it's just a bit of bait for back row because, again, they might think, if I do go to siding, they might think that it is an actual live back row instead of just something that I want them to actually MST. And then finally, one of the cards that is an interesting one in here, it is Oasis Dragon Souls. So the reason for this is I have multiple cards in here that benefit from being special summoned. Scepter is one, allowing me to search all of the artifacts that allow me to search, and Honest because I can bounce it back to my hand. So there are multiple things, and obviously Chrysia as well, there are multiple things that actually benefit from me having Oasis, being able to special summon from the grave. Now, with the argument versus Call the Haunted in this, the reason why I run this is simply because if I do get off the Gale Dogger's effect twice, it means that I am on at least 2,000 life points, a complete maximum of 2,000. So I don't particularly want to be summoning anything in attack mode, because my opponent might just be like, okay, I'll just redirect it and attack you with something bigger. I want to be able to special summon something in defense in case it gets stopped. So if I summon the Scythe, for example, if they're going to try go into extra deck, if I summon it and then they break through it or stop the effect in any way, shape or form, I've just got a 2-2 in attack and they'll probably be able to find a way over it, especially if they're summoning from the extra deck, because they've just changed their whole game plan. So the Oasis are absolutely incredible and it worked out a lot better than I thought they would. So going on to the extra deck, we have the one Pallades, because it is your rank 5, and the other one is Durandal. So there are other ones that you could technically play, but I just do like these two simply because how their effects work, and they are just great in general. One Masquerade, I really like this. I've chosen this over Ouroboros for 2 reasons. One, I can't find my Ouroboros to save my life. I'm pretty sure that DT1 has vanished off the face of the earth. And 2, I actually prefer its effect when I would go up against Ouroboros, because it means that I can use this against things like Dolls or Burning Abyss or anything like that. So it's just really, really nice. And yeah, I don't really need to say much about that. Then the other one is Deltaros. Obviously, Deltaros is a very standard one, especially when you're running the Star Seraphs. So it's really nice. And then the Plantelamos as well. And to couple that, we have the Diamond. So all these kind of just speak for themselves, completely honest. With the Deltaros, I'll normally get its effect off, and then I can easily just go into Diamond if I'm playing one of the Darks. Or same with Jesus, I can't speak today, guys. I'm really sorry. Platemos. This guy, you know, I've had a long day at work, but my theory is still correct. So then going on to the other rank 4s, we have the one Exeter Knight, the one Daigusto Emerald. This is here just to recycle any of the Star Seraphs maybe back into the deck or anything that I find useful. The one Castell, just to spin anything back that I don't like. The one Abyss Dweller and the one Cowboy, who I always put together simply because they came out in the same set. The one Alunite, because it means that I can retarget things like breakthrough skills that my opponent might want to do, anything like that. The Rebellion Dragon, because it's here for some aggro, so it's nice to get over different things like, you know, you can get over towers or something like that if you use another monster, so on and so forth. So Dark Rebellion is just really nice. And then finally, we have the 2 very important cards, Arclight. Now, the reason why I don't run 3 is because you won't get the effect off 3 times unless your opponent gives you, like, 2 Upstart Goblin effects, simply because you only have 8,000 life points to spend with, and sending both of these is 6,000. So that is basically it. And if you have a chance to get, you know, if one gets breakthrough, one Gale Dogger gets breakthrough, and then you know, have another Gale Dogger, there's no point, because as I said, you're on too much low life. So that is it, guys. So that is the deck profile. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really, really fun version of Herald, if I'm completely honest. And I really do like running it this way because it's just pure aggro, and a lot of people don't really expect it to be as aggressive as it actually is. And there are a lot of different plays that you can actually fall on if anything goes. If, you know, your Herald dies, it doesn't mean that it's actually game over. So that is it, guys. As I said, let me know down in the comment section below what you think of the deck version. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I shall catch you guys later.